Nice to meet you all. I appreciate you doing this today.
Yeah,
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So our podcast is all about you guys, your journey in music, and how you got to where you are now.
Okay, cool.
Wow, that's going to take a couple hours.
Well, based on the name, I'm guessing you guys are in Nashville.
That's right.
We are.
All right. I just moved here, actually.
Oh, wow. Man.
Thank you. My family and I moved here from San Diego, California. So
yeah,
Okay.
I can see everything still in boxes.
yeah, California refugees, as we call them. But yeah.
I moved back here from Los Angeles.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was out here first, and I was out in LA for a number of years doing film and TV stuff. So.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. So all of you originally from Nashville?
No, I don't know anybody who is originally from Nashville.
It's like people from San Diego. Like there was like one of 10 of people in the whole city that were from there originally. Yeah. So tell me about where you were all born and raised.
Well, I'm from Houston, Texas. I moved up to Nashville when I was probably 18, so I've been here for a long time. But grew up in Houston, Texas.
Well, real quick on that, how'd you get into music?
Oh gosh, how did I not get into music? I've always been into music from a very young age, 4 or 5. I've just always been singing, singing. And my parents, were into music. My mom was a singer, and she dragged my dad into it. And they had a band when I was a toddler, called Potter's Clay.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a church band, and which I thought was a pretty good title.
Yeah, it's a good title.
That is a good name. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
And they were, it was back in the early 70s, early to mid 70s. So there was a big Christian music push. There was a lot of that going, like folk music. There's a lot of folk music in the Christian scene back then. So that's what they were doing. It was sanctioned by our Baptist church, and they would travel around the Houston area, and I would go with them. And my parents also would hire themselves out for weddings and not bar mitzvahs. There's not a big Jewish community in Houston, at least when I was growing up.
My cousins are Jewish. They live in Houston.
Is that right? Yeah. It's grown. I'm sure it's grown. But anyway, so yeah, I've just always been around music, and I learned how to play piano at a young age and started writing songs. A lot like these guys.
Yeah. Did you did you get a chance to go see your parents play in that band?
Yeah, but I was really young, so I mostly remember the rehearsals.
Okay.
But I do remember going to see my parents sing at a wedding. I remember sitting on the front row and just being there while these were strangers' wedding. They didn't know them. They were hired singers for a particular thing. My mom would sing Evergreen by Barbra Streisand.
Yeah.
And she was nailing it.
Isn't that
Nailed it.
I don't really know.
Oh.
It might be.
I think it was.
But it was one of her most popular hits of all time.
Yeah.
And then my dad would sing Lady from Kenny Rogers.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
song, yeah.
yeah, and so anyway, it was I just grew up in it.
Very cool. What about you, Brett? Where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Evergreen, Colorado. It's a little mountain town. Kind of out in the sticks in Colorado. And I lived between there and Texas. I lived in Houston a little bit, and back and forth as a kid. But I ended up going back to Texas for college. And that's kind of where my musical journey kind of took flight, because I was in some pretty horrendous bands in high school.
What was the first instrument you picked up?
Saxophone, alto saxophone, and I used to compete in piano. And I always wanted a guitar, and I decided to. My parents didn't want me to play guitar because they thought I'd want to be in a band for the rest of my life.
Okay.
What are you mad at?
You showed them.
So I remember I bussed tables for an entire summer, and I got enough money to go buy a guitar at a pawn shop in Denver, and I've still got that guitar. So
Wow.
Did
you find that guitar before you had the money?
No.
Oh, so you knew you wanted a guitar, you just saved the money. I was wondering if you had an eye on that and okay, that's $150. So I'm going to work until I get that guitar.
Yeah, it was $400. I remember that.
Whoa.
Which is crazy.
Wow.
like a 1975 Fender Stratocaster.
American made.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, buddy.
wow.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
Wow. That's
But
incredible.
your high class taste started very young.
Yes, it did.
For sure. What about you, Scott? How'd you get, or where were you born and raised?
I'm from a place called Beaver Dam, Kentucky.
Okay.
My dad's a singer-songwriter. He's mainly doing gospel now, but like when I was younger, he was in the honky tonks.
Okay.
Like Troy said, I remember mostly the rehearsals, but I did get into a few honky tonks back in the day. But before I was supposed to.
Yeah.
Right. What was the first instrument you learned?
Guitar.
Guitar. Okay. And did you play in any bands or anything?
Yeah, I played in several bands. None worth mentioning. You know, it's just a bunch of country boys out there making a bunch of noise while we're learning. That's what we do.
Sure.
That's how you start. That's how you learn.
That's it.
Exactly. Wow. And then what took you to Nashville?
Well, I've always been in and out of town. My dad, like I said, is a songwriter also.
Uh-huh.
He right with a guy named Tommy Collins.
Okay.
Wrote Roots of My Raisin Run Deep from Merle Haggard.
Oh, wow.
New Patches, Mel Tillis. So he had
Wow.
some hits. He's a Hall of Fame songwriter. So
Okay.
I was raised around those guys. And Johnny Russell was around some. And I was raised around those guys. We were always in and out of town. They come up and go fishing, you know. So Dad would be in the kitchen writing with Tommy, and you know, I got the bug from that. You know, I
Okay.
write my "I love you, you love me" kind of thing and bring it out. And
Sure.
they dig it for me right there.
Purple Dinosaur songs.
Yeah. Bring me back to my room to fix it. You know,
Okay.
I got a songwriter education from early on. You know?
That's amazing. That's amazing. And you guys are all right. You write for various other artists. Is that kind of how you all got together?
Yeah, and projects.
Yeah,
Project.
Yeah.
all of us started out as writers, so we each individually, continue writing on our own and with
Yeah.
each other and with other writers around town. So we're still in the writing arena, I guess you could say, here in Nashville.
Okay. What took you to Nashville, Troy? I don't remember you saying.
Well, I ended up going to Belmont. That's what kind of brought me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Back when it was called Belmont College. I probably shouldn't say that. I'm dating myself, but anyway, no. When I was graduating high school, I mean, I knew that I was going to be my interest was to be an artist in music. It was to be in the music industry. It's to some degree, and I couldn't find my first choice was Berkeley in Boston.
Sure.
And it was just circumstances. It was too expensive. It was too far away and
too cold.
It was too cold. And that was my dream. I really wanted to go to Berkeley. And
Okay.
when it was apparent that I couldn't go, I was just like, well, I don't want to go to college. I'm an only child. So if I don't get what I want, I start,
That's where that
complaining.
comes
That's where
from,
that
yeah.
comes from.
This explains a lot.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was like, I told my mom, I'm not going to go. I'm just going to learn a bunch of covers and go play piano at a bar somewhere. And she was like, no, you're not. That is not what you're going to do. So I think they frantically, looked around for some places. And at the time I was in a band called Crossroads, and our producer was moving to Nashville. It was a Houston-based band. And our producer was moving to Nashville, and he was telling my parents about this school that had a music business degree. And it was like the only music business degree ever at the time, at least regionally. And outside of Berkeley, I guess. So we visited the campus, came up in spring break of my senior year, visited the campus, and it was my first time on a college campus, period. So they're all of them are pretty beautiful with the green, lush grasses and the big buildings and everything. So I was hooked. I mean, that was definitely where I wanted to go. So thankfully, they were able to send me there. So I went to Belmont for a couple of years and realized that I could be a songwriter and not necessarily the front guy, and just sit back and get that mailbox money. So
Sure.
that was very appealing. And by that time I realized how the songwriting community was held in a pretty high regard, you know, at least in the minds of the Nashvilleans, of Nashvillians.
That is true.
So that really appealed to me too, the respect, you know, of the community and all that stuff. So that's what I did. I put together a little demo after about 2 years there. I used friends of mine that were playing, because everybody in you know, at that time, I don't know if it's still the case, but everybody was a guitar player, everybody was a drummer, everybody was a bass player. There were musicians all around, and there was a big music business population there. So I got some guys together and did a demo with a friend of mine who was interning at Soundstage, and he was able to get us some downtime. And we one night we just put together 3 songs, and from there I handed it out. And a couple months later, I got in touch with, or somebody got in touch with me to start a publishing deal. So
wow, that must have been huge. What a huge
it was
moment.
awesome. I mean, it wasn't a lot of money, but you know, your first publishing deal isn't a lot of money ever.
Yeah.
But to get paid to write songs, I mean,
Yeah,
isn't it
that was
dream?
amazing. That was amazing. It was a lot of fun.
Troy and I were at Belmont around the same time period, but we never ran into each other.
Oh, you went there as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, well, first off, how did you have to, is there like some audition process to get into the college?
There was for me, because I was studying classical and jazz guitar.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's an audition process on the music side. If you went into the music department, you had to play. But I didn't do that. I went to the music business side, which is basically a business degree with a music emphasis. So you would learn things like, you know, music publishing, and you still had to do all the business courses like accounting and economics and stuff like that. But you got to do some more music oriented things, but you didn't have to audition.
Got it. Okay. And then Scott, you went to there as well, but you went in as a guitar player?
Yeah.
Okay. So you had to do the audition process.
Did audition, and
What was that like?
you know, I wasn't too worried about it. I just kind of showed up and done it.
See, I was. That's why I didn't do that. I don't want to not get in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'd always been around performers and performing, so I don't really sweat that. I never really did, you know. So I just showed up and, you know, done my thing.
Did your thing and got in?
Do you remember what you played?
Yeah, I played Bach Moonlight Sonata
Wow.
and
Fox Beret.
Country Boy, Ricky Skaggs,
Okay.
Wow.
and D, Randy Rhoads.
Really? Did you really?
Yeah.
That's great.
To get into, wow, that's pretty amazing. To get into a classical guitar.
Yeah, right.
You got to show that you're a shredder, I guess, huh?
I was then. I don't keep up with those riffs now, but yeah, but I love Belmont too. But it was a Christian school at the time. I didn't finish up there because apparently they frowned upon having parties in your dorm room.
Oh, uh-oh.
Yeah.
We'll just leave that right there.
Yeah. it was
Okay.
Southern
Did they
Baptist.
politely ask you to leave?
They politely asked me to move off campus, so I just finished up in MTSU at that point.
There you go. There you go. What about you, Brett? Did you go to college for music?
No, I went to Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas, and I studied. I doubled with forensic archaeology and journalism.
Oh, wow. Okay.
His face.
So how did that take you into music? That's interesting.
Well,
Turn of events.
I also studied. They had a really world famous guitar teacher there, Robert Guthrie, is a flamenco guitar player.
Uh-huh.
I actually ended up studying with him while I was there as well, and I was playing in country bars all around Dallas at the time. And kind of just really took to that. And then there was a guy who actually just passed away last week, unfortunately.
Oh,
But he was my mentor, and his name is James Hawley. And James was bass player for George Jones and Tammy Wynette. And he heard some of my songs, and he was like, man, you really need to move to Nashville. So that's what I did. So that was
So what did you, when you first moved to Nashville, I mean, you must have been like, okay, now I'm here. Then what? Like people always say that, like, okay, I moved to Nashville, but I'm always curious of like, how do you then?
Yeah, the micro steps. Yeah,
it's
Right. It's like I'm in Nashville, but I'm also not a songwriter, but it's like, what would I do? I'm here.
Well,
And I was like, okay.
It's a click. You got to get in. I mean, what you do, most people do, which is what I did too. When you first moved to town, you start going to writers' nights. And you start doing the writers in the round. You meeting all the writers and try to beg them to write with you. I mean, that. And there was a guy named Vernon Rust. Now he and I became good friends, and he had just done the album The Ranch with Keith Urban.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He had written like I think 9 of the songs on the. I think you have a song on that album.
Yeah, that was my first cut. Yeah, it is very weird. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! So you wrote a song on that record, and you guys didn't even know each other at that point.
Oh, way back. Yeah.
Yeah, but Vernon became a good friend of mine, and
late 90s.
And he had written he wrote a song called, I think it was Sacred Ground by McBride and the Ride. It was #1 hit. He had a bunch of hits going on, and he didn't have a place to stay, weirdly enough. And I was like, man, you can stay on my couch if you write with me every day.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Good trade-off.
Yeah, I mean, he was a hit writer. He's a great lyricist, and well, he took me up on that. We wrote every day. And that was kind of an interesting path to where I'm at, and I ended up moving to New York and writing up there, writing pop music. And then I had a job offer from Steve Dorff, who's a composer, and actually produced our next single. To move to LA. He asked me if I wanted to move to LA and work with him on TV shows. I started doing shows with him, music editing for him. I did a show called Reba with him.
Really? You did Reba?
Yeah. Well,
I love that show. That was like one of my favorite shows. I've seen every episode.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, that's you did. Did you do others?
Well, we did that, and then we did.
Man, Van, that guy. I love that show. That's so cool.
We did a bunch of stuff, and I ended up kind of going through all the composers in LA. And I ended up working for Rick Marotta. We did Everybody Loves Raymond. And I did like Center of the Universe and My Name Is Earl. And
wow.
I worked on Friday Night Lights, and
I love My Name Is Earl.
Yeah, so do I. That was such a great show.
Yeah, but I love.
Did you guys know? I remember when it came out. Trace Adkins they were asking him to be the lead.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that didn't.
I
don't know how that. I mean, I know how it panned out, obviously, but
it is Jamie Presley in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But did you know Jason Lee is a pro skateboarder?
Jason Lee,
I didn't know that.
He's awesome.
Yeah, he started as a pro skateboarder, and he got in.
I met him several times in the dub stage, and he was a great guy. But that was kind of my. I would say going back to schools. I learned from all these top composers in town. And Snuffy Walden and Rick Marotta and Steve Dorff and Laura Cartman and all these different composers who are kind of the top of the game in TV world. And that sort of got I started scoring and writing more songs for film and TV. And I was meanwhile going back and forth with Nashville the whole time. And then moved back here after doing a film called Forever My Girl. And I was producing, that's how we all met. And I was producing the soundtrack, and I was going back and forth to Nashville, and Troy was singing the demos for me.
Oh, okay. So you're sending demos for the film?
Yeah. So for that, I was essentially a stunt singer. I mean, I would sing the songs that the artist would then come and sing, replace my vocal for.
Got it.
But a lot of times, a producer will say, "Hey, can you sing this?" so that the artist can know, first of all, what it's going to sound like, and have an idea of what they can do with the song. Right? Is that fair?
Yeah. And I was working with Universal Music at the time, and I had a bunch of specific artists in mind, and we were kind of pitching for those artists. So I could kind of, tell Troy like, "Hey, man, I want you to do like Josh Turner and different artists like that. Like, can you sound like this person?"
And of course, I would always say yes, and I would just sing it the way I normally would sing.
Of course, I can.
You can only go so far, I remember my favorite stunt singing gig was Frank Rogers, the producer, was doing Darius Rucker at the time, and they had a Christmas record coming out, and Frank asked me Darius couldn't make the session, and he asked me to come in and sing all the songs with the band. And that was just a blast to be able to, because I don't get being a demo singer around town. You don't really get to sing with the band.
But I mean, but also Troy ended up not just being the demo singer. I mean, you did all the most.
Well,
of the
I did some backgrounds.
You did
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
backgrounds on the album as well.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I got doubly paid.
yeah.
And then how did you guys meet? Scott, how did you meet Troy and Brett then?
Well, me and Troy, we write for the same publishing company.
Oh, okay. So you had known each other through that?
Yeah, about
Yeah, about
4 years.
Yeah, so maybe about a year or two before you met Brett,
Right.
or you had that.
Yeah, I've been writing for the company. We've been writing for the same company for about a year and a half.
A Million Midnights.
Yeah, Midnights, and they flew me out to LA to do a songwriters festival called Durango Songwriters Festival. I'll get it out and say it.
Drunko.
Yeah,
I was like,
Just slap him on the back.
Durango.
Yeah, but while I was out there, a mutual friend of ours named Tim Gates had a writing appointment with Brett, and he invited me to go down with him to write for this movie called Forever My Girl. I was like, sure, get a shot at getting a movie. Yeah, we'll do it. So we go down there, and he introduces me to Brett. We hit it off real well. The song didn't make the movie, but which I tell every
time you tell this story.
Okay, so you guys
get over that. Someday I'll get over it.
But we realized we had Troy in common, basically, is the moral of the story. And we realized that he knew Troy, and I was working with Troy as a vocalist on the rest of the songs that I was doing on the soundtrack. And it was kind of, I had this idea for a darker country band. So I have this idea, Scott, it's called Nashvillains, and I love this guy's voice and Nashville, and Troy Jones. Like, I know Troy. That's how we kind of figured that out.
Yeah, me and Troy were from the same company. Matter of fact, his office is across the hall.
Yeah.
He goes, man, I want to get band together with him when I come to town. I was like, well, I'll call him.
So they tag team me and cajoled me into this whole thing, which has been a blast.
Which has been a pushing boulder up there.
Pushing a boulder up there.
No, I'm just kidding.
So that's how you just had the concept of Nashvillains, and then that became the project you guys are working on now.
Well, I always just loved outlaw country music, and I grew up on country. I grew up in rodeo circuits and stuff like that, and knowing that whole world in Colorado, and that's a big deal in Colorado, is the rodeo circuits, and in Texas, and all that kind of stuff. And I just love that sound and that name. I couldn't believe that no one had taken that name.
When I looked that up, I was like, there's no way that this is like, no one has this. So I was expecting to see like 10 million people like on, trying to have to sift through everybody to figure out which band you guys were. But like, you're the only one. I was like, wow. But it's so creative, but it's something that I wouldn't have thought of. You know what I mean?
Well, we ended up just trademarking it immediately, because we're just like, I can't believe it. Usually when I come up with an idea, I'm like, oh man, I gotta do that. And all of a sudden it's like somebody's taking it. Got it. Oh shit.
Right.
But yeah, that was kind of
And then you guys just started writing together and
started writing together. And the first song we wrote was called There to Catch Me. And we still hadn't convinced Troy 100%. Troy was kind of.
Oh, they keep milking that part of the story. That's not true.
Well, no,
we all got together at my office and we decided, well, let's see if we can even write a song together. So the first time we got together, it was like, okay, well, it actually turned out pretty good.
No,
and then we got
chemistry was
together
good.
again.
Yeah.
And we had a handful of songs after a couple of weeks, and Brett took them and produced them and made a, not a finished product, of course, but sort of a sketch of what he thought they could sound like. And I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. They sound really good.
Mm-hmm.
So we just sort of kept doing that process. And during that process, Brett was telling me that, well, people are coming in and sticking their heads in my space and saying, this is really, really good. What are you guys doing? It's very unique.
What the hell is that?
So through the process, we've tried to retain the uniqueness of it, but inch toward a more commercially acceptable sound. So we're going to be straddling that you know, that for a while, I think.
But I have to say,
Okay.
I mean, it's really interesting. You never know getting together with other people how the chemistry is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to just work. And for some reason, you know, divine intervention or whatever, I mean, the three of us seem to blend really well as writers, and our voices blend in productions really well. It just, you know, that doesn't always happen.
Yeah, that's tell people
So-
all the time that songwriting is kind of like dating. You know, you get together with somebody, sometimes it works, sometimes it don't.
Sure.
Nothing
sure.
perfect.
Right. Well, with the three of you guys being such incredible songwriters, is it hard to like how do you like what I'm seeing, like I'm just going off your Spotify. So you have Baby Go Boom and Tumbling Down. Like with those songs, you all come in with an idea, or you just sit down together and go, okay, let's think of a concept and come up with a song. You know what I mean? Like, I know obviously you guys are all songwriters, so you could come in and be like, oh, I have this song, or I have this song, I have this idea. Like, how does it all kind of start?
Well, a lot of times it'll start with the music. I mean, with this particular band, it's it happens a little different than when I'm in a more traditional songwriting setting where we're actually writing for commercial country music or something else.
Mhm.
I'll come in with a lot of title, you know, what I think are good titles.
Sure, sure.
I'll throw them out just like everybody else does, and you know, sometimes they stick, sometimes they don't. But I find with us, we sort of start fresh from the beginning and develop a concept as we hear the music, because it is so unique. It is we're trying to create something that is outside of the mainstream, but we're able to, you know, still have a foot in the commercial sound. So a lot of times Brett will come in with music, or Scott will come in with music, and we'll have a general idea of maybe the mood or the general concept, and then we'll just sort of, you know, hone it in from there. But a lot of times it does start with the music. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. I think initially we started writing this band. We didn't even think about radio at first. We were thinking about film and TV, because that's more my background.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was coming with more conducive musical ideas that were more conducive to film and TV, and we were starting to write that. I think initially that's where we started doing that.
So we were writing really broad.
Yeah,
you know, we were writing
broad
with broad
people.
strokes. So
Yeah.
a lot of the earlier stuff has a lot of broad strokes in it, and you know, macro themes as opposed to, you know, stories.
Breaking that big terms, ain't you?
Well, okay. So you have two songs out now. Is have you guys been able to, are you going to play as like, is this a band that you're going to pursue as far as like?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's traditional band. It's turned into a traditional band where we're going to tour. We're going to do all the things that a band does. So, you know, unfortunately, we started getting traction right before COVID. So it's kind of halted a bunch of
But
stuff.
I think
Course,
I think people, like fans, drive your success, and I think people started hearing the band and saying, "This is something you guys have got."
Mhm.
Something.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think that's kind of what drove it to us believing, okay, we can push this a little further.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you know,
yeah, and the propensity for any pop music is it all kind of sounds the same. So I'm really proud to be part of something that doesn't sound anything like what else, you know, what's on the radio, which is
Mhm.
it, you know, with something like that, it's a ballsy move where you're like, well, this is either gonna, you know, really blow up or it's gonna fail miserably. So we have yet to see if that's gonna happen. There is what's gonna happen either way.
Well, I mean,
That makes it more exciting, I think.
yeah, I mean, the latest single is doing really well on Spotify. So
That's great. That's great. Yeah, and I'm very excited about what's coming up, because I think the caliber of what we're doing is just going to increase.
Sure. Well, speaking of COVID and how that kind of threw a wrench in what you guys were doing as far as this band goes, like what were you guys like really like? Tell me about like, when did Baby Go Boom? Was that song written and Tumbling Down, were those written prior to COVID?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, most everything we're releasing, it has been written prior to COVID. Yeah. I mean, we had a bunch of stuff in the can, so now we're doling it out.
Yeah,
Got it.
A lot more stuff we've had through COVID, and I guess at the end of COVID, we've had a lot of pieces of songs.
Yeah.
That are still working out.
We had just shot a video for another song in Hollywood. In 2020, and we were coming with the release of that in March 2020.
Oh, okay.
Well,
and then, yeah, obviously we all know what happened then.
Yeah, just like everybody else, we had to reassess.
Yeah, we had
our strategy.
Yeah,
and for like what was it like 2 months? Everybody was like, "What is gonna happen?" You know,
Sure.
we were all holed up in our own homes, and during that time, we started doing those cover songs.
Yeah, I love those videos I was watching.
Would, film ourselves on our laptop, and boy, the technicality involved in that was,
it's so funny, especially we did the Crowded House, No Dream It's Over.
Yeah.
That song. I mean, that was all of us during like the high point of COVID. We're all in our separate houses.
Yeah.
And recording it, even though you see a microphone in front of me, I'm like,
smoke and mirrors.
it was all iPhone, so because that's what we had to use.
Yeah,
and
sure.
So we
really
kind of figured
rough.
out how to put out covers during the middle of that, and Troy would do a guitar vocal and send it to me, and I'd add stuff, and Scott had his stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, what I did was I had I played to a click. I mean, I like playing to clicks, and it makes it easier to splice things and put things together.
Sure.
So I had an earpiece just with a click, and I would play to that so that I knew that if Brett needed to, I would give him what the BPM was, and if he needed to edit something or play along with it, then
he could.
It should all
match the click. Yeah, he can match the click.
Stuff we didn't, because it was all iPhone, so it was just all one.
Yeah, there's some of them. Yeah, I guess I'm only describing some of them. Yeah, some of them we
Yeah,
didn't have that at all.
Say it. There's a couple of them we done that I didn't play to a click.
No, that was
We don't ever play to a click, even when we have a click.
He put his clicks on. I ain't playing it.
Yeah. Scott's like, yeah, the click's on.
Annoying sound.
Click off.
I know who came up with that click sound. It is quite annoying. Like you would think that over the years somebody would have EQ it a little differently, or
yeah, several different choices now.
Oh, do you really? I can only remember the one.
Unfortunately, the most annoying ones are the best.
Yeah. The loud cowbell.
Right. That's funny. Okay, so were you able to write together? I mean, over the course of this past year, like, is there more songs coming, or were you focused kind of on?
No, there are definitely more songs. We have a lot of songs in the hopper, actually, but we didn't do as much writing as you would think we would do during COVID, because it's too hard to get together. And
yeah, and Zoom. I mean, Zoom's great, but for writing, I hate it.
There's a latency,
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Were you able to write, like, I mean, individually for, your publishing companies and try to pitch songs over the course of this last year, or was that even kind of weird?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Not as much as usual.
Before.
There wasn't that many people cutting for about a 6-month stretch there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can count on one hand people that were in studio recording.
Yeah, I took a bit of a hiatus off of songs.
Yeah.
When I'm home, I mean, I'm there. I got a wife, 3 kids.
Sure. You're in dad mode.
Yeah. So it's hard for me to get in writing mode.
Dude, I feel you, man. I got 2 kids here, and it's like, since COVID started, this podcast usually, I mean, before, it was kind of I don't want to say it helped our, I mean, in due respect, it did help our podcast because people were at home and they were willing to chat. So we were able to get a lot more people and guests on.
Content.
And people, like, Zoom became this thing that everybody knew, and it was like, oh yeah, I'll get on. It's easy, blah, blah, blah. But like before, we used to do this in person, and my wife and I did this together, and we started this whole thing together. And now it's like she's kind of more in the behind the scenes scheduling. She had to adopt a new role, and it's like, and between that and like trying to hoard the kids and corral them so they're not running in here and making a noise. It's just like it's weird how everybody had to kind of adapt to this.
I remember doing Zoom calls and having my little girl crawling on my back. And, here she is, like crawling on my back with her arms around my neck.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's like for them, it must be even more odd because instead of like, in the beginning there, no one was going to school and it was like, what's this whole thing of like, it's just been a wild ride. I mean, in Nashville here, sorry, go ahead.
At least we all kept our clothes on during the Zoom call.
You're right. At least from the top up, right? Well, I mean, it looks like things are here in Nashville, stuff's starting to open up quite a bit. I mean,
yeah,
which is nice. Still,
really the only thing, when you go into stores, I still wear a mask. I'm fully vaccinated, but I still wear a mask if I go into a store, just to keep the peace, basically.
Sure.
It's like, like we're starting to be able to play out. We just shot a music video a couple weeks ago for our new single. It's coming out at the end of this week.
And actually had people there.
And and it was like we had extras, we had crew and everything. It was awesome. So it's kind of nice to see that happening.
Yeah, life.
Everyone's so happy to be out.
Yeah.
Right. I know, like I was kind of forced and not forced, but my son plays t-ball. And when we first moved here, we put him in t-ball here to meet people, and like they were very short on people that wanted to coach. So I'm somehow the head coach of the team. But it's interesting to see, like, when you're at the games, just people out and like, watching their kids, and it's cool to see people out and about nowadays instead of being so like, okay, we're all stuck inside now. I feel like more people are getting vaccinated and this, that, and the other thing. So we're seeing more life outside of, the past year.
Yeah. And that'll grow and grow and grow. And what's really difficult is changing your psychology. I mean, I remember going to a store the first time, after 8 months or whatever, and being like, this is weird to actually be inside somewhere that's not my house.
Right.
There's a flip you got to do, psychologically speaking, that's odd. And,
I discovered online grocery shopping. I had never done that before COVID.
Oh yeah, I know. My wife's all about that. Still now to this day, it's all
on. Do it because it's such a pain in the butt to take my kids.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
buy everything. I would end up with like another $50 worth of stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say every time I go to the store, it costs me $20 in candy.
Yeah.
Right, of course. Yeah, now it's like, okay, yeah, we've been doing the pickup, like where you pull up at Target and they just kind of throw it in the car for you. That's been nice. Well, I want to hear about this new single. So you guys have a new song coming out, and you're talking about the video. What's the concept? What's the song? Tell me about it.
The song is called "Who Don't."
Okay.
It's an awesome song. I think it's a smash. It's this is the only song on our record we did not write.
Really?
Yep. It was written by.
Well, we were approached by Steve Dorff.
Steve Dorff. The composer I used to work with. He's a Hall of Fame songwriter as well.
Wow.
He's written a ton of #1 country hits.
He wrote "Cross My Heart," George Strait.
Oh wow!
Wave It Loose, Through the Years by Kenny Rogers, like a lot.
Yeah, and just in case you didn't know, Steve Dorff, the actor, is his son.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting! I didn't know that.
But he's also got Steve had another son, Andrew Dorff, who's a songwriter here in town. Very, very good songwriter.
He wrote
songwriter.
He wrote like "My Eyes" for Blake Shelton. He wrote was it "Neon Light" for Blake Shelton? That's
Neon Light, yeah.
Neon Light. And he wrote "Save It for a Rainy Day." Kenny Chesney hit.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's hit.
Yeah,
hit.
just hit.
And then, unfortunately, tragically, he passed away.
Yeah, he had exactly in 2016, and Steve. So I think based on the relationship that Brett has with Steve approached us saying, "Man, I've got some songs I'd like to pitch you guys if you're willing." And we were like, "Well, absolutely. We're looking to sort of branch out into a more commercial sound. So let's see if there's something that'll fit." And Brett really liked this "Who Don't" song.
Yeah, he said that he's been holding these songs for the right band, and Steve's all the believer of the right musician with the right song. So he heard that he had like 5 songs, and this was the one that he really thought would fit us. And I heard it, and I was like, wow, that does fit us. I think it's perfect. I told him, I said, normally we write everything and produce our own stuff, but we ended up for this doing. Also, it was just such an honor to do an Andrew Dorff song because he was such a prolific writer.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was probably a huge moment for you, especially you, weren't you? You worked close with him. correct?
Yeah, and Steve is who I worked with, and Steve I knew Andrew a little bit, but Steve is who I worked with for years on all the TV shows and stuff. And Steve ended up producing it because he wanted to produce his son's song. So we're like, yeah, man, let's do it, and it turned out so great. So and it's awesome. So that's what we shot the video for a couple weeks ago, and that's going to be our next single.
Very cool. And you said it's going to be part of a record, or are you guys just doing singles right now?
We're doing singles leading up to a record.
Oh, you are going to release a record. Very cool. And then like you said earlier, it's going to be a full band thing. You're going to try to tour it and really,
Absolutely.
really go for it. Awesome.
Yeah. Especially with the response that we're getting. I mean, I think we need to get out there and promote it, and get on the road and promote it. And I think we have a lot of fans now that are looking to see us live, and we feel very comfortable live and very comfortable on stage.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be a fun journey doing that.
I love it. That's so awesome. Well, and thank you guys so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Yeah, I can't wait till you guys play. I'm sure, hopefully, Nashville will be one of the the places that you guys play.
Oh yeah. Well, we were playing the local before. It's great.
We just done a big show
out here. We did a couple showcases for industry people and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Our label, we do different showcases for different booking agents and all that kind of stuff. That's what we were doing before COVID. So
sure. That's awesome. Yeah, because well, like I said, we're so new to town, we haven't even had a chance to see any.
Check out the nightlife.
Yeah, or go to any of the venues or anything because no one's playing them yet.
Well, man, we'll hit us up. We'll take you with us. Come on.
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, we're actually in an apartment right now while our house, our dream home is being built, and we're gonna have a studio there. So we'd love to have you guys come on down, and we can do this in person sometime. Maybe when the record comes out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're there, man.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for doing this. I do have one more question. I want to see if I can get an answer from all of you, if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Well, specifically songwriting, my advice would just, write as much as you can, and don't not finish a song, even though you might lose interest in it. Finish the song. Give yourself permission to write a bad song.
I love that.
My advice is find songs that you really like, find the songwriters, and find several of their songs, write the lyrics down on paper with a pencil or a pen, like the old days.
Yeah, and not with your iPhone.
Yeah. And study rhyme schemes and the inner rhymes and how they tie the story together. Study all that, right? Every day, and read songwriter books. Jerry Cupid had a good one out several years back. That's a good one. And just read. I always like reading Hemingway, because I always thought Hemingway wrote his novels like a songwriter. Just the way he painted the pictures. So there you go.
Love it.
I'd say learn an instrument. And one of the greatest things that I think that I was taught a long time ago, which is very true, for aspiring singer or songwriter, is getting a cover band. And because you get used to performing hit songs on a constant basis, and you learn the structure on how to do that. But I would also say it's important for these days, especially, learn engineering, learn how to engineer, all that's important, and know what you're doing with that, and playing an instrument. And like Scott said, study different writers, study the masters, and play. Get out and play. I think because you don't really know if you've got a hit, what you may think is a hit.
Right. Even if you can't see, even if you're not a good performer, this town is very this town understands songwriting, and it's very forgiving of that.
Yeah. And when you go out and do the songwriters rounds and things, songwriters nights around town, you don't know what clique you're going to link into.
Yeah.
My clique was Josh Osborne. We come up through the range together, you might say. We played a lot of those. We wrote a bunch of songs together in that time period.
But your audience will tell you if you've got a good song. I think that's my advice is play out.
And then
There is a caveat there because Nashville being a music town, they're going to be less. It's harder to tell, I think, with a Nashville audience.
Yeah,
Because
this is
they
like,
want
this
to
is like a
encourage
worldwide
everybody.
thing, right?
They're more encouraged.
This is like a worldwide thing, right? For songwriters. And
Yeah, yeah.
Every town across America,
Right.
I mean, go out and play your local bars and see how people. Don't wait for the reaction from your family members because they're all gonna like it.
Yeah.
Go out and hear it and see what actual patrons at different venues think of your songs because they'll either react, wow, that's amazing, or be like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And say yes to everything.
Yeah.
So yes, sir. That's how we wind up here. Tim Gay said, "You want to go write me and Brett Boyett?"
Well,
Yeah.
once you get some clout, once you get some experience, then you can start saying no. But when you're young, say yes to everything.